We have just received confirmation from Meridian that on October 27th, 2560, Spartan 117, the man most commonly known as the Master Chief, died in the line of duty. Out of respect to those who may have lost loved ones in the event, we are holding back the complete account. The Master Chief would never have agreed to special treatment, to be elevated above anyone else. But we must acknowledge the loss we have all, our entire species, suffered today. And we must fight together as he fought. We must end this, not be ended by it.
What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex from IronInfidel.com, home of the Battle Bottle. I know a lot of our viewers are active guys. You go to the gym, you go hiking, you go to the range, but a lot of you probably don't hydrate as well as you should. I kind of am guilty of that as well. But one easy way to make sure you are staying hydrated is to have a 2-liter bottle because it holds you accountable. You fill it up, and if you don't finish it by the end of the day, then you failed. Or if you want to be a real go-getter, fill it up twice and finish it twice. So whether it's our 2-liter bottle or somebody else's, you really should be staying hydrated. If you want to support our channel, that is the way to do it. Pick up one of our bottles. Some of you guys are wondering what that intro was all about, but some of you know exactly what it was all about. Today we have the Springfield Hellion, our first bullpup on the channel, and it bears a striking resemblance to the battle rifle on Halo, which kind of brings back some nostalgic feelings for me. I grew up as a teenager in the early 2000s when Halo came out and online gaming wasn't really a thing, so we'd all meet up in somebody's garage, bring all of our TVs, bring all of our Xboxes, hook them up, and have little nerd LAN parties. I can't believe I'm admitting that to you guys, but I know there are some of you guys who did the very same thing because it was an absolute blast. So as soon as I saw the Springfield Hellion, I knew I had to have it. Just for that nostalgic feeling, I had to have this rifle. So I reached out to Springfield, and to their credit, they said, yes, we will send you out one. So I didn't have to pay for this. They sent it out. Thank you, Springfield. I really do appreciate it. But before we dive into the details of this, since this is the first bullpup we've had on this channel, I kind of want to talk about bullpups in general, and I'll just break it down in super simple forms because that's how I usually do it on this channel. What a bullpup is, most of you probably know, but if you don't, basically all of the action is taking place behind the trigger group and behind the grip. So things like your magwell, things like your ejection port, everything is happening back here as opposed to on an AR when everything is kind of happening either above the trigger group or right here out in front. And that's basically in its simplest form a bullpup. And this design, although not really used all that much in the United States, it has been widely adopted in foreign countries, military special forces, and you know, SWAT teams, police, things like that. And there's rifles like the AUG, the Tavor, just a bunch of other bullpups out there on the market. I'd like to hopefully get on this channel someday, the VHS-2, which I'll note later in this video. But it's not a gimmicky design. They've been widely used across the globe. But let's talk about the benefits of a bullpup design. Basically, in its simplest form, it allows you to maintain a full 16-inch barrel in a shorter package. So the overall length of this is equivalent to an AR-15 with a 10.5-inch barrel. So we have a 16-inch barrel here with the overall length that's the same as an AR with a 10.5-inch barrel. So there are some benefits there. With that added length of the barrel, you're able to reach out and touch targets at a greater distance because you have a higher velocity, and you also still have the maneuverability to work around confined spaces or inside vehicles and things like that. And when I put it that way, it sounds like this is the ultimate compromise, and some Croatians might agree with me on that. But in my opinion, and it's kind of common knowledge, that there are some definite downsides to a bullpup, which I'll talk about. Some of these are personal preference because I grew up firing and shooting an AR-15, so I've grown accustomed to those manual alarms. But some of the knocks on the bullpup are basically the trigger itself, which we'll go into. The trigger is definitely a downside, and then anything that basically happens after your rifle runs dry. So let's jump into the Springfield Hellion. Basically, this is the American version of the Croatian VHS-2. The VHS-2 has been the primary rifle for Croatian police, Croatian military for a number of years now, and this is just basically the American adaptation to that. And what's that tell me? Well, it tells me this is not a gimmick rifle. This has been time tested and proven and used for years. So there is something to be said about that. Now, starting from the back, this is the stock. This is an adjustable 5-point spring-loaded stock. So each position is about a 1/2 inch apart. And if you see, it's spring-loaded. So you depress the button and it just pushes itself all the way out. You also have a couple QD attachment points on this, and then on top you have like a cheek pad that can be adjusted, and you can rise it a little bit. So if you're using like a 193 optic mount, then it works pretty good for that. And then underneath the stock, you have the bolt release. And this is a little bit odd. It's an ambidextrous bolt release, so you lefties will probably like it. But it just takes a little bit of getting used to. Basically, you have these two little points here. One is completely rigid, and the other one you pull towards it. So if you're trying to release the bolt, basically you pinch these two things together, and it drops the bolt. Just takes a bit of getting used to, not that big of a deal. But right in front of that, you have the mag well, and this is similar. Changing mags on this is similar to changing mags on an AK, and we're going to talk about that. Again, I always compare everything to an AR, which is not quite fair when you compare an AK or you compare a Bullpup to the manual of arms on an AR, partly because I have grown up using ARs and I'm familiar with the manual of arms, but also I just think they're kind of better in general for reloads. Why? Because when you have to depress this paddle, you're adding one step to the process. So basically you come, depress the paddle, drop the mag, then you get your new bag, then insert it, and it's one more step. Whereas with an AR, you just depress the mag with the mag release button, it drops while you're simultaneously getting your mag and inserting it. Is it that big of a deal? No, it's not as big of a deal as people on Instagram would make you think, but still, faster is always better. Almost nailed it, but I forgot to squeeze the little button there, but it takes a little getting used to. Not too bad. I think with some time I might be able to get somewhat proficient with it. Yeah, not bad. And another common complaint of Bullpups in general is the ejection port, specifically for lefties. If you're a left-handed shooter and the ejection port is ejecting casings out of the right side of the firearm, well, let's just showcase it right here. If casings are being ejected right here because the ejection port is so close, you can see how that would be a problem for a left-handed shooter. But lefties rejoice because Springfield kept that in mind, and they put ejection ports on both sides, and you can actually swap them out depending on what handed shooter you are. So if you're a left-handed shooter, you can make them eject out of the left side of the rifle, and if you're a right-handed shooter, you can just keep it how it is and have them eject out the right side. It's not that difficult to do, but I'm not going to show you how to do it because I don't really do tabletop reviews or tabletop things. There's tons of them out there. I think it's kind of boring. So if you want to find out how to do it in Springfield's manual, they show you how to do it, as well as there's videos of it online. It's not that difficult, guys. If I can do it, and if I'm saying it's not hard, trust me, it's not that hard. Moving on is going to be the safety. The safety is a little bit stiff, but it's not really all that difficult to manipulate. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but there's not really much to be said about it. It's the safety, and it functions. But one of the most common complaints for Bullpups, all Bullpups across the board, is going to be the trigger. And the trigger on Bullpups just isn't great, and that's because of the way that these are designed. Basically, because everything is happening back here, the length of pull is extremely long and mushy on most Bullpups. And I'll kind of show you what I mean. This is all the slack before you hit the wall. This much slack, then you hit the wall, and then there's a lot of take, and then it breaks. So it's nowhere near like an AR if you're accustomed to an AR like a Geisley trigger or a Blackout Defense trigger. It's not even remotely close to that. But for Bullpups in general, this is actually not that bad. So if you're accustomed to Bullpup triggers, then this is actually probably going to be pleasantly surprising for you. It's actually pretty good for a Bullpup. It's somewhat flat-faced, so I don't really have that many complaints with it because it's a Bullpup trigger and it does better than most do. Underneath that, for the grip, you have a BCM grip that comes stock with it, and this is interchangeable with any AR grip. So if you have a favorite AR grip, you can throw it in there, which is pretty cool. And then up top, we have aesthetically what is very similar to a G36 carry handle right here, you can see. And on top of it, you have a Picatinny rail, which I threw a Holosun HS 515 GM, I think, on top of it. I just threw this on here on the interim until I really figure out how I want to build out this rifle, but it looks a lot like that G36 design. And then in the front and back, you have standard iron sights there, spring-loaded flip-up irons that I actually used for quite a while because it took forever for this Holosun to come in. So I was waiting a while and I actually did a lot of shooting with these iron sights. Again, they're spring-loaded, and I was a fan. I liked them. I didn't have any issue with them, and I usually don't say that. I usually don't like iron sights because I'm so spoiled with red dots. I actually kind of enjoyed using the irons, to be honest with you, just because it changed it up a little bit. And then underneath that, we have the charging handle. This is ambidextrous. This is my favorite thing about this whole rifle, besides the fact that it looks awesome. Halo battle rifle. This mask makes it very difficult. All right, but the charging handle is really cool. It's basically, depending on, you know, whether you're lefty or righty, it can swivel out in either direction, and it feels very sturdy. And you pull back, and as soon as you release, it goes right back into place, and it's in line with the rifle, so you don't have it sticking out to one side or the other. And in general, when you're running a charging handle, the placement of it is great. Right out here in front is much easier to manipulate than something like if it's back here by your face. So the charging handle is probably going to be my favorite thing about the entire rifle, and it's non-reciprocating as well. Underneath that, you have the grip. The grip feels very sturdy in your hand. It feels good, and it's M-lock. You can see there's 3 on this side, 3 on the opposite side, and I think 9 slots underneath, and you have 2 QD attachment points. Not much to be said about the grip itself. It seems good to go. And this is a adjustable gas block. There's 2 positions. You have N for normal, which is non-suppressed, and then S for suppressed. And it's as easy as just turning this thing to switch it on whatever you need. Moving on to the barrel, it's going to be 16-inch, like I mentioned before, cold hammer forged 1-in-7 twist with a 4-prong flash hider. And that basically covers the specs of it. I don't know if I mentioned $2,000, and it's chambered in 5.56. Obviously, you guys know that. But I'm not going to do like a tabletop review, show you guys how to break this thing down, go into all the fine details, partly because I'm just not good at that type of thing. I don't have enough knowledge, and there's better channels out there to do that. But yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go with it. Let's talk performance. Performance, this thing held up well. I took it all the way out to 100 yards, which isn't a super, you know, great distance, but it's enough. And I was just using the irons with it, and it held up fine, perfectly accurate, no stoppages, no malfunctions. Didn't really have any issues with it besides, you know, operator error, me trying to learn the system. Those were the only issues I ever had with it. So I actually really, really like it. And yeah, it is what it is. If you like a bullpup, then you're going to like this thing. Final thoughts and conclusions. I really do like it. Bullpups are not ARs. They're different. There's going to be benefits, which are that full 16-inch barrel on a more compressed package. So if you do work, you know, CQB or in and around vehicles, it could be good for that. But just know that there are downsides to it, like the trigger and the manual of arms if you're not used to it and things like that. So it really just depends on what you want out of it. Is it for everybody? No. Would I take this over my AR? No, I never would. But there are some guys out there who would, and there's a reason why these are used across the globe. And the Hellion, for a bullpup, I think does a very, very good job. I love this thing. Aesthetically, it's amazing. So you can't go wrong with it. The only thing I noticed is when you are shooting this, and because of the way the bullpups are designed, all the weight is in the back. So it's very light up front, but all the weight's in the back. And it's a little bit awkward when you're trying to go and get up on target from like a high rate of getting on target. It just feels weird. I just hit myself in the face with it. Still trying to learn it. I'm much more accustomed to an AR. But that's the one weird thing. And then still trying to learn those reloads and just the manual of arms with this thing. But I will be using it a lot more. And I really do like this thing. Thank you, Springfield. Loving the rifle. And thank you guys for tuning into this channel. I appreciate it. I can't say that enough. And if you ever played Halo in the early 2000s and had a LAN party, let me know in the comments below. I know you did. There's going to be somebody who commented. If you don't, you're probably not telling the truth to all of us. There's a razor coming here, so I'm going to get off the camera, guys. Don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.